Oh, I thought you were gonna do some some like pseudo Nujabes beat, and then we were just gonna be talking.
Generally, yes.
What up, everyone? This is the Twice Over Film Club, where we watch a movie every week, and I'm your host, Faraz. Today is our episode on Three Idiots. This episode does have spoilers, so hopefully you have watched this movie before, and if not, it is currently streaming on Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and Mubi. Remember to check out thetwiceover.com to see how this movie rates according to your preferences. Also, check out our previous episodes on movies such as Sound of Metal, City Lights, Mank, Silver Linings Playbook, and The Lighthouse. If you're interested in knowing what we're watching, follow us at The Twice Over on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or Letterboxd. Every Tuesday, we announce what we're watching for that week. Okay, so here's a full episode on Three Idiots.
Today it's me, Faraz, with Farhan and Yusuf, and we're going to be discussing Three Idiots.
What's good?
All is well.
All is well.
Ooh. Okay. Let's talk about what this movie is. It's three friends in college, often referred to as idiots for being childish and not studious.
And now, three idiots are going to discuss this movie.
There it is. I knew it was
that.
coming. I was like, when is he gonna throw it in? And I'm like, maybe he's gonna throw it in the beginning, right off the bat. No, he brought it in, perfect timing. And
So
here we are, dude.
These three idiots, not us, but the ones in the movie, have not been together since their college days, but then two of them are looking for the third one who played a significant role into who they became in life after they left college. You want to start with the writing category?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm going to go first. I gave it
man.
a 75.
I've got an 80.
Oh my God! What?
All right, fine.
50.
50. Wow. All right.
Oh my God!
Explain yourself, because I think me and
Explain?
Yusuf are
So
pretty
wait,
close.
can we start by like just taking a step back and like Farhan, can you tell us about your experience with Bollywood movies? This is our first one, and obviously
True.
given our cultural backgrounds, this is not something that's really foreign to us. But I take it that you have some strong opinions.
I wish that you guys could see me right now because I'm covering my eyes with my hands because I can't believe that we're about to talk about this movie. My experience with Bollywood movies, I don't know. I don't care. I mean, I'm trying to be objective as I can here, and so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna justify my score of a 50.
Go for it.
We're talking about the writing, correct?
Yep.
We're talking about dialogue and how that's
The dialogue, the
executed.
narration, because a lot of
The
this
narration
is narration.
and how all of that is executed. I'm just gonna say one thing: all of the writing in this movie is cheap, and it's the same as every Bollywood movie, and it's acted the same way in every Bollywood movie. There's nothing different, and so that's my score justification.
The writing is cliche, but it's not necessarily bad. It's just predictable.
Oh, it's bad.
I don't think that makes it bad.
We'll get into it, but so that's kind of my thing. 80. You gotta justify the 80, bro.
I don't think I do, man. Like, I think you got to justify the 50 because me and Faraz are pretty close here. But I mean, I'll say that I don't necessarily think that the fact that it fits a mold is bad. I mean, there is something to that, right? They have kind of a distinct style that is prevalent in in that culture for the film, the film industry in that culture, and I think it fits that mold and it feeds into that mold in a certain way. I mean, that's not different than kind of your typical I don't know, slapstick comedy movie like that you watch in Hollywood, right? Like I don't think it's necessarily.
Farhan would probably give that a 52,
I
though.
so you're not wrong. Here's we'll give a good preface to all like 10 of our listeners. If you've
Wow.
never seen a Bollywood movie, it is for a certain crowd, which is a very antiquated crowd. That film is not really a huge passion of theirs. When they're watching a movie, they're watching a movie for the same reason that people used to watch movies, these corny slapstick comedies. Those are the people who watch Bollywood movies. So you're completely right in saying that this fits the mold. That being said, I'm being objective as a somebody who is partaking in a film podcast series to talk about writing in its art form. And I'm sorry, there is zero art. I'm gonna say in this in the writing for this movie, really in the movie, to be honest with you, just on my opinion.
Okay.
Does it do what it's supposed to do? Yeah. Doesn't make the writing good, and so we can talk about that, but That's kind of my deal.
So without like harping on it too much, I think that they take that mold and then they actually accomplish something with that in terms of a message that is, more defined and more specific than what you typically see in a Bollywood movie. I think they go beyond the pale in terms of what you would expect for depth in a Bollywood movie, and I mean I'm ready to fight on this the whole way. So I'm actually excited that we disagree.
We're gonna have to throw down, dude.
This is the thing. I think Three Idiots is a good movie where it kind of transitions like from what we grew up watching the '90s ones, like they're super melodramatic and pretty much only like love stories, versus kind of what Bollywood has become, which is a little more diverse now than what it used to be. But it bridges that gap. So like Yusuf says, it takes what we're like familiar with and it does add on to it.
Which is you're not incorrect about that. I mean, that is true. This isn't, Bollywood is changing, and you see it in this movie. You definitely do, that they're taking a little bit more of a modern approach, a less cliche as it is. It is a less cliche approach. It's not this is not a love story at its core. I would say it's not a romantic love story, at least I would say at its core. So in that way, it is different. However, in the execution, I just wish that they would have gotten there's nobody like this probably in Bollywood, but I wish they would have gotten somebody that's a little bit more progressive and understands film more, because they got the same people who are directing all of those shitty romantic love movies to do this one. They got the same exact people to write the scripts for this movie as they did for the people who wrote that one. The only thing that this movie really has going for it, and we'll talk about it later, is that it's a good feel-good movie with a different message than you typically see, and that's about all the credit that I'm gonna give it.
Okay. Let's move on to the next category. Let's talk about the narrative. I gave this a 55.
I'm with you, 100% 55.
All right, I went 95.
What? What is so good about this narrative?
Okay, so here's the thing. I think that they go very cliche and they go hard, and it's for a reason. And I'm gonna call out your boy Wes Anderson right now, Farhan. So he does this in his movies, and we applaud it. Okay, like he kind of brings. I mean, well, this also factors into aesthetics a lot, but the way that they present kind of the development of the story, it's like over the top in a lot of ways. It's very cliche. There's like stereotypical characters that come in and out of the story, and he's just established that as like part of his style, and we're okay with it, right? Bollywood leans on that stuff generally, over the entire industry, but I think they actually go particularly hard on it in this movie in a lot of different ways, and that is to make a point that fits really well with the themes as well. So I think that was fairly purposeful here, and so I gave them credit for it. I take it that you guys didn't like those things about it, at least, if not additional things.
I was gonna say this is easily the weakest part of the movie for me. Like everything you said is pretty much true. It's just I guess we see it differently because it is cookie cutter. It's not unique. But Farhan, what you said is like the audience that they're trying to capture with like these Bollywood movies. Is the problem is they're trying to cast this massively wide net. I mean, India is a super big country with a very diverse population,
and not just India. And it's not just India. You're right about the net. It's the whole world. I mean, Bollywood movies are revered throughout the world. Not by film critics, okay? Not by film critics, but by people in their 60s and 70s and whatever 50s, and apparently people in their 28s or 29s or what are you 30? Are you 31? How old are you?
Are you asking me? I'm not telling you. Not. I'm not telling all 10 of our viewers, okay, or our listeners. That is not happening. So it goes for feeling more than it does art. You know what I mean?
See, the thing is also the direction is all over the place. Like you don't know if this is sometimes it's a comedy, sometimes it's a drama, sometimes it's a thriller or something. Sometimes it's just a mystery. I don't know.
Well, that's exactly what makes it a Bollywood movie. What they do is they have their chalkboard and they say, okay, we need to make a movie. Every single Bollywood movie is like this, by the way. It needs to be funny. It needs to be thoughtful. It needs to be suspenseful. We need to have some thriller aspects. This needs to be, there needs to be a villain who's very interesting. And we need to have a hero who's very interesting. There needs to be a love interest. And there needs to be, all of this stuff. Every single Bollywood movie does the same exact thing.
Okay.
Same exact thing.
But in a typical Bollywood movie, would you have all of those things embodied the way that they are here? For example, just starting with
Yes.
the point on like the characterization. So like the villain, is the villain kind of this exaggerated, kind of annoying, like caricature of society, or is it usually, I think, in a Bollywood movie, it's just kind of the angry, crazy fiance or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, I think they went with a different angle.
Are we talking old Bollywood? Or are we talking the new and modern Bollywood, which is, by the way, antiquated about 20 years as compared to what Hollywood is right now?
I mean, if that's true. I mean, we can talk in terms of either one. I would note that this movie is from 2009 and it was part of the transition, by the way. So, I mean, taking that into some level of consideration, although I don't, if you're going on an objective scale, I don't expect you to score it up for that necessarily, right? But I wanted to make that point that, like, there is a degree where they are taking the template of Bollywood and they are twisting it significantly to give this movie some actual individuality. I highly disagree that it fits the mold altogether.
Here's the thing. I think, Yusuf, we agree. Like, the difference is you're satisfied that they're attempting to do this. I think both Farhan and I are saying that they attempted and failed.
Absolutely, but that's okay. It's okay because you do see the attempt, and I think you give a lot of credit to the attempt, which is cool because you're right. I mean, they are definitely trying, and they're being progressive in doing different things. There's little things here and there that they do that I'm like, okay, I'm impressed that they tried. It didn't work, and they did fail completely. However, there's movies that are around the same time as this one that are coming from Bollywood that did what they tried to and they succeeded. Barfi is one of them that I can think of, and that's I don't watch a lot of Bollywood movies, but that movie, while obviously there are still some Bollywood aspects to it. I don't know if you've seen this one, Yusuf, but it's a great movie, and I would score that on average probably 30 points higher than these. But I can definitely see your point, man. I know that they're trying to do things. I'm a little disheartened that you mentioned with Wes Anderson in this episode.
I really think if you took this story down to its skeleton, it could be a Wes Anderson plot, and I'm not even kidding about that. If you just fed like the basic plot.
No, in terms of the plot, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, he doesn't go all over the place with so many things like this. His is pretty, like, it's also a simple cliche story, but he sticks to like one element of it, not like 30 elements of a cliche story.
Well, and plus, this is a really you bring home a really good point, and something that I want to make. There's a difference between having movies with a really good story and progressive stories that are acted terribly, executed terribly in terms of direction, executed terribly in terms of cinematography. And there's a difference between that kind of a movie and one that has an interesting, progressive story that is acted well, that is beautiful to watch, and they're doing amazing things cinematically. And the dialogue is cheap and it's believable, and there are characters when they build these characters where you would believe they're saying that. They're not waiting for their lines. They're not scripted. You can't tell that they're scripted. Everything comes natural. See, that's the difference.
Okay. That's a good segue to acting.
Hold on. If I could just respond to that real quick though.
Sure.
Like, I'm just thinking of. In fact, I'm thinking of Moonrise Kingdom, and I'm thinking of your review of Moonrise Kingdom, Farhan. And you two were on mic discussing the fact that it seems like the characters are waiting for their lines, and they spew these like long like monotone responses at each other, and that's like it's not even a criticism necessarily. It feels a little bit scripted, but it's part of the design that Wes Anderson is going for, and I see that here. The fact is that these are kind of elements that really come down to individual interpretations. So like I'm comfortable with the fact that you had a very different one than me, but I do think that's kind of something that we give credit for in different environments, and we criticize it in others. So that's all.
I got you.
All right, for sure. Let's talk about our acting. I gave it a 60.
I kind of want to hear what you have to say. You said for acting.
I gave it a 70. I don't think it's spectacular, but it was fine for me.
Yeah, I went 50.
I mean, other than Kareena Kapoor and Amir Khan, I have nothing really to say about any of the other actors.
Other than Amir Khan.
Good. I like Amir Khan. No, Kareena Kapoor is solid, bro. I mean, maybe she's one of the few Bollywood actresses I like quite a bit. From like Jab We Met, I thought she was great in that. She's kind of the same character in this, but
yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's not like I'm okay with it because it's not like you really scored this crazy. So yeah, we all agree. I mean, Bollywood acting is Bollywood acting. What you'll find generally as a trend in Bollywood movies is that you'll have one, maybe two, if you're lucky, three actors that are, I'm not even gonna say they're serviceable, maybe even good, but they're never great. I shouldn't say never, but they're not great in this movie at least. But that's usually what you'll see in a Bollywood movie. You'll see a couple of serviceable performances clouded with the worst side actors in history of film. For the time that they're made, the time that they are made.
The B-level cast in Bollywood tends to be quite questionable.
Yeah. Big drop off.
And so
questionable. I like that, questionable.
Right. I mean, I think Amir Khan does fine here. He does what he needs to do. He's probably not even really perfectly suited for this role, right? I mean, I think from the start, I think he just looks too old.
He's done this kind of role before, though, or not before, but he did like PK. He's kind of the same kind of guy.
Yeah, he's also. I mean, Lagan. He's always a dude he's always kind of intuitive. He has some ingenuity. He's like he's smart, but from a
different line of thinking, maybe, right?
A different line of thinking. He's always that dude. So, and he's my favorite actor in Bollywood. So.
More than Irfan Khan.
I don't know who that is, man. I haven't seen any recent Bollywood movies, so.
The dude from Life of Pi?
You're gonna upset our Bollywood audience right now, dude.
That's totally fine with me. Come at me, bros.
Rest in peace, Irfan Khan. We see
True,
you.
He just passed away like
what?
2 months ago or a month ago.
Dude, that makes me seem like an asshole now.
Yeah, we should probably cut this out, but we won't.
Anyway, I would just, one more thing is that for Bollywood, one thing is crying is what the standard is for becoming an actor. So if you can cry like on demand, they let you in, even if you suck at everything else.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, dude, for sure.
I was just gonna say that I think Amir Khan looked a little bit old to be playing like a young student, and
all of them.
And yeah, all of them to a degree. But I think him particularly stuck out to me. But I didn't rate it particularly high. So I think given that token, he does what he normally does, which he provides a real variety in performance. I mean, he can do a lot of different things, which is not typical for Bollywood actors. So I mean, he's kind of the bright spot. Everyone else, I thought they didn't harm the performance as much, again, because they were playing really stereotyped roles, and that was kind of a feature of the movie. So they kind of got away with one there because of that.
Gotcha. Should we move on to aesthetics? What do you guys think?
Go for it. Tell me your score.
50.
Oh. Going 50s across the board, huh? I was at a 70.
I gave it a 65.
Should we note, by the way, I think it's obvious, but that this was a recommendation of yours, correct, Yusuf?
Oh yes, this was a recommendation of me to try and elicit this response from you. So so far
I can see that.
So good. I mean,
because I think you tried that with the last movie we watched, but I liked it, and I think that was a surprise to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to find movies that are gonna piss you off. I'm more so just trying to test the boundaries of your taste in movies, and I'm finding out more about it that way. You know what I mean? Why pick the ones?
You found it, brother.
I mean, why pick the ones that I know you're gonna love, right? I'd rather pick the in-betweens, and let's get into the nitty-gritty, right? So
no, I appreciate that though. I really do appreciate that, because honestly, in reviewing a movie that I do not have much love for, I can talk. People can get a pretty good idea into what I do love. So. And why I don't love this is a great. I'm really happy about this choice. So going into aesthetics, you gave it a 7. What did you give?
Yeah,
Faraz?
70. And for us,
65.
65. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we're all pretty much in agreement.
I only gave it as high of a score because of the choreography, the dancing, the music. I generally enjoy it in Bollywood movies. So
Yeah. Well, I don't. Should we go to the theme?
but wait, you liked it a lot in La La Land.
Yes, but there's a huge difference between Bollywood choreography and La La Land choreography. There really
No
is.
way, dude. Come on. Now this is the
No.
self-hating
yeah,
basic
like
coming
now
out.
you're. Like,
I'm being objective.
Are you
I'm
some
being
sort of
objective.
dance? Are you some sort of dance expert that you can really tell the difference? Because I mean, I
In
I
fact,
can't.
he
I
is.
can't,
Braz,
but
tell him. Braz, tell him.
He is quite a dancer.
No, but
I've seen Farhan
No, so
dance.
here's the
Come
thing. Here's what? Why?
those are
How have
jokes.
you seen me dance? It's kind of weird, dude.
Shout out to Rehan.
Oh.
So at his wedding, I definitely saw you pulling some moves. Okay, and if I was to
Rehan's
rate
wedding?
your moves at that wedding, I would probably give you around a 65, brother. So I mean,
That's solid.
you know,
dude. That's solid.
serviceable. Didn't really harm my experience of that wedding, but you know,
Yeah.
not the greatest that I've seen. Not some work
No,
of
so
art.
it's not the dancing itself, and I'll be honest with you. I'm not factoring that into this, so maybe that's a little unfair of me. I'm not factoring it
You
in.
should be.
However, I mean, I'm doing the movie stuff. That part is that I think that stuff is not a part of the movie. That's my opinion, because
It's
it
a
takes
musical,
you.
bro. Of course
It takes you
is.
to an area that has a place that has sometimes nothing to do with the story. This one does. A lot of the stuff does, and so those I did kind of include. But I mean, when everybody all of a sudden is in sync with each other on the mountains of Australia or whatever wherever there are mountains in Alaska, and they're wearing completely different clothes when 5 minutes earlier they were like in India or wherever they are. Somehow they end up in China. Like, I am not a huge fan of that at all, and I'm just so perplexed as to how that has not changed. We're talking about being progressive, yet they've kept all of that stuff the same.
So you just chose your two prime examples of mountainous regions as Australia and Alaska.
I don't know. No, Australia. What I meant is Alaska. Okay, let's not use this as let's not probe it. Am I?
All right,
India
fine,
has more than enough mountains.
Well, I mean, I agree with you that stuff is pretty corny. It's nonsensical, but you know, yeah, and you know that's kind of a regular feature of Bollywood movies. So you know that's nothing to really applaud here. Even if you're okay with it, it's not like this movie does that particularly well, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I do think there are, especially some scenes, and I can think of one song sequence in particular that's like super like beyond the Bollywood standard of like whimsical, and it's intended to be this exaggerated artificial style. And I'm going to say it again, you know, we give Wes Anderson the pass on that all the time. So I mean, you know, they're probably not employing it to the level of precision that he perhaps does, but they are going for that kind of like that campy, really unique, you know, style and feel to some of the scenes. I keep thinking of what's the name of that, the Zooby Dooby song. I think that was one in particular that like really stands out.
Which one is that? Is that the one? It's like him and Kareena Kapoor.
Yeah, it's like the first kind of singy-songy love sequence song. So I mean, they go like super over the top in that one, and you know, I think there was particular purpose to that. So you know, again, I gave it a 70, so I'm not saying it was particularly amazing or anything.
Sure,
but
yeah.
It has its moments.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So final category themes. I gave this a 55.
I actually went with the 65 on this. I think that's really the only. If you're gonna watch this movie, if you're gonna watch any Bollywood movie, and you're gonna be watching it for the corny stuff, unless you're into the music and unless you're into the song and dance sequences, the only reason to watch this like objectively as a film critic would be for thematic elements. That's every Bollywood movie. So I'm with the 65.
It's a great movie to watch for the thematic elements, which is why I went with a 95 here. And I think that is.
I knew you would.
Look, this is a movie that goes well beyond the standard for, you know, actually imparting some sort of real meaning and message to the movie. And they went hard on particular pressure points for an Indian audience. Things that are, you know, degenerative issues in the Indian communities, or I should say the South Asian community as a whole. The issues of a level of demand for people to conform to societal standards, and the effects that has on people, and the pressures associated with those expectations. I think they really went hard on that, and this is going at an audience who is going to be very unreceptive to that kind of thinking because of how prevalent and how accepted that notion is in society as at large. So I think not only did they do a pretty good job of rounding out that entire message throughout the movie, but the fact that they were attacking that message in particular deserves credit to me.
Yeah, and I agree. I 100% agree. It is it's a very unconventional theme, and the fact that they make that the focus, they don't actually, they do a good job of focusing on it. They don't really get too distracted from that main theme, which I don't know if I'm going to be divulging too much information on it, but so they do a really good job with that. I think where you give a lot of credence to the effort, I'm looking more at the execution. And 65 is I think that is generous, and that I'm giving that because of the effort. Execution takes everything else into consideration, however, So
in my score, I would say is looking at just mainly as execution. It's like super heavy. It's in your face. It's always there. And there's no creativity behind it in any way, really. They do it and they attempted it, but there was no creativity behind it to go higher.
I don't want to get into the details, but I think there were elements of creativity here, and I would love to discuss that at length, and I'm sure we will. Aamir Khan does these types of movies a lot, though, right? You see him really trying to pick his spots and go for messages that he feels, I think, society needs to hear. And this is kind of I don't know if it was the first really, but it was one of the earlier ones of many that I can think of that he's done since. That kind of go at, again, these pressure points that are particularly important for society to hear. I think I generally like this movie because it tries to do that, and I think it does do it to some degree. You can again argue on the artistic nature of that execution, but I think it surely at least gets that message across. But I like this movie. I like a lot of Aamir Khan movies that attempt this sort of thing because they're particularly different from Bollywood pumps out 200 movies a year, and seeing something different is always nice.
For sure. So my first question was, who has already seen this movie before?
I have not. Not that I remember.
They're all just one random movie to you, right?
Yeah.
I think I'd seen parts of this movie before, but I had probably never watched it in one sitting. I probably never watched it in one sitting all the way through. I have seen pretty much the whole thing actually, but now on rewatch I think I actually got one continuous experience to watch it. It's a long movie, and again, I don't think I ever took the time to sit down and watch this in a 3-hour sitting.
So I did have like a Bollywood phase, and I probably watched this back then, so like 8 years ago or something, but this was my second time watching it.
Are you usually a big fan of Bollywood movies, Yusuf?
I am a fan generally of that that subgenre. I think you have to go into those movies with a bit of tempered expectations. You have to accept certain things because it is a different culture. So there's a grain of salt that comes with watching these movies. Generally, yeah, I'm a fan of them. They're generally fairly feel good movies. And they cater to a wider audience. So typically you're not going to, even if you don't like the movie, you're not gonna suffer the entire time, I think. So I like that about it. It's a little bit balanced. So maybe less artsy in certain ways, but satisfying from a viewer's perspective.
I kind of agree with that. Like, it's hard to say that you leave a Bollywood movie with because they're all feel-good movies. They usually have like nice clean endings to make you happy, but it's still a long-ass movie. So if you aren't enjoying it in the middle, it kind of sucks. Like, I used to be one of those people that wanted to always forward past the songs, especially like Farhan mentioned in the review, where they're totally out of place and it's just randomly like inputted within the movie. So Bollywood has that, and this movie I wouldn't say is the same like that. So it definitely is better than all that, but it goes both ways where if it has so much for everyone that if at the parts that you aren't interested, you're just kind of sitting there waiting for it to end.
Yeah. 2 hours and 45 minutes?
just about, yeah.
That is too much time spent watching this
And that's
movie.
on the short end of Bollywood.
That is a short end of Bollywood. I want to kind of touch on something. I literally have in my note, okay? This is the first note that I wrote watching this movie. I'm going to read it to you. Jesus, the acting is terrible. That's my first note.
Why'd you have to invoke Jesus, man?
I don't know why I had to invoke it. That's how passionate I am about how the acting.
Look, it's because the movie starts with Madhavan, or the guy playing Farhan, and that dude is by far the worst actor in the movie.
No. Chatur is. The Chatur guy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
he
yeah.
is the worst.
silencer.
Dude.
Silencer, yeah.
He is so bad. By the way, why is he, when he's showing off how rich he is, and he's like, look at my home, marble flooring. Look at my brand new Lamborghini. Did you see what the Lamborghini was? I don't know if you guys are car people. It's a freaking Lamborghini Countach, which was made in the 80s. Homie, this is 2009. You're driving a Countach. I'm sorry. That is not a new Lamborghini. Do your freaking research, Bollywood.
But Countach is like one of those classic Lamborghinis.
It is, but they don't know that.
So it's like, no, they probably do
How do
know
you know
that.
they don't know
He
that?
It's
said
the
my
one that's on
brand
every
new
movie poster.
Lamborghini. He didn't even call it a Countach. He named like he named the VIN number or whatever the hell he did. I don't know what the hell this guy did. And he's like very fast. It's not that fast of a car, first of all.
Okay, Chatur though, he's intended to be like a completely stereotypical, like, whatever, corporate sellout douchebag guy. Like,
Yeah.
that's what he is, right?
I actually
like,
didn't have
so,
a problem
I mean,
with him.
He is, but
because
he is.
he keeps harping on my business deal with what's his name, something Wagdu or whatever, right? He
Funsuk
keeps
Wangdu, man.
Punsuk Wangdu, who is actually our star character here.
Spoiler
so
alert,
which
spoiler
you'll find
alert.
out at the end. He keeps mentioning, like, the things that he has and his success, and that's not a mistake. Like, that's clearly
No, I
intended
know.
to show out here, right? So I mean, that's why, like, that level of acting does not take much skill. So I'm not going to sit there and applaud his acting, but I don't think it was horrible acting, because it was really a function of the movie here.
It was horrible, and here's why. So here's kind of my big gripe with Bollywood. When I watch a movie, I don't want to be able to see the process. When I watch Bollywood, I can 100% see the process. It's like it's a documentary, and they're like, this is how we made the movie. I can see the freaking process. I can see him.
They only release director's cuts.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the actual movie
exactly.
that you watch.
I
It's
like
always-
that. Yeah, every single Bollywood movie is a director's cut. They didn't mean they didn't mean to put the whole thing on. Like, they didn't mean to show all of this is like a first cut. You know what I mean? That's what we're watching when this dude is acting. It's so bad. Every expression of his is so forced. And that
So
goes
wait,
for a lot of people in the movie.
You probably feel the same way about Virus, because he's like the same exact character.
He's one of the shining parts of the movie, and only a couple of times in the movie is he a shining moment. Like when he first shows up and he tells that story about his whatever teacher or something, there was little bits in that where I was like very actually impressed, and it was sort of like believable. And I appreciate that they're trying to do something different with the villain character. They're trying to make an empathetic villain character who you can kind of understand why he is the way that he is and all of that jazz. So I do want to give some credit to that. However, that's not even the dude I'm talking about. Although sometimes it was him as well. What's her name? Kareena Kapoor. Every smile of hers was so forced, and it was so corny looking. I'm like, nobody looks like that when they smile. They don't. And then this is 2009 movie, and we've talked before about 2008, 2009, 2010, and the kinds of movies that we reviewed on this podcast. Those are the movies I'm comparing this to. And so compare the acting level in those movies where you cannot see the process some of the times. I mean, you mentioned the Moonrise Kingdom with those two kids. Granted, they're children.
I'm comparing them to full-grown adults.
Not just full-grown adults, like established actors. Like,
These are the best that the community has to offer. This is the pinnacle. How much money went into this movie? That's what I want to know. How much money went into this movie?
I will say I think like some of the tact of this movie is kind of lost on Kareena Kapoor. Like she's doing what she typically does as the heroine.
Right.
Like she's not really diverging from that much. So I mean I could probably see the struggle where Amr Khan's like, no, this is a little bit we're going a little highbrow here, and she's like not getting it. I could potentially see like how that would be playing out. So I mean she is what she is, and that's fine to me because I don't know. I don't think her role really affected the more important elements of this movie to a great degree. So I don't know. I was kind of fine with that. I did like Virus though, just like you did. I mean, I think he's like the perfect villain to me. He's just, they went out of their way to really, they gave him that evil mustache. He speaks with a lisp, and he does all these like really, rinky dinky things like taking, what do they say, 7.5 minute naps, and he gets his full shave during that time and all of this stuff. And he carries around this pen that he says is like the pinnacle of excellence. I mean, he's super, super cliche in that regard. And, he's supposed to be kind of this is an engineering movie because he's a machine, and he's building more machines, right? So again, like that was a very stereotypical character, and so it didn't bother me in the way that some of the other actors might. So Faraz, let's talk about Farhan, the character, not Farhan.
The reason I brought up Virus is because the same reason you said, Yusuf, like I didn't have a problem with him. In the same regard, I didn't have a problem with Silencer either. Like, there's just the same type of character that is being presented. So, like, it is like obnoxiously annoying and douchey and the stereotypical.
There's people there's people who have that same kind of character, and they act it really well. Like, okay, so like thinking about people who make asshole characters appealing. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the show that comes to my mind. Charlie Day in that show is incredible because he's freaking hilarious, because he is an amazing, amazing actor. So, I mean, if you have somebody who actually has some acting like prowess, then they can totally shine in this movie and in that role. And it's honestly, it's not even the hardest role probably to do compared to some of the other ones, at least in this movie. So, I mean,
come on, that's a totally different level and type of comedy, though. I mean,
but I mean that's just an example I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's some in movies as well that I just
what I'm saying is I just think it's a stretch to say that there was nothing funny about those characters in their roles. I think there was, and I mean, again, you do have to factor in the audience here a bit, because when we review, any sort of foreign film, we can't ignore the context of that, and we certainly, as foreign viewers, we lose some of that context, and that is important to consider.
Sure,
here.
yeah,
so,
I agree.
mean, I just don't think there's no value there. I mean, but I just wanted to say on the point of Farhan, the main character, he is not supposed to be playing a role like that. He's supposed to play a more serious and a more nuanced role, and he doesn't do it. He's just kind of there, and so that was like more annoying and more of a stain on the acting to me than any of these kind of stereotypical characters.
By far the worst for me. Like every time I heard him, saw him, I was like, I don't want to watch this dude. This guy sucks.
Yeah.
And honestly, he didn't bring much value to the table, really. He moved the plot, obviously, but just so.
Yeah, he was the main narrator, right? Like he was the one who was narrating the whole story for us.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. For some reason that's true. He was.
What do you guys think about this being? So this is generally a comedy movie, right? That's how you would describe it.
Bollywood has a very hard time. Bollywood has an identity crisis.
Yeah.
In so many different respects. One, in terms of individually on the movie level, they can't decide whether they're a comedy, whether it's a drama, or whether it's a thriller, or whether it's, whatever it is. It's trying to be so many things. So I can believe that the people who are writing and directing for this movie are fans of American movies. I know for a fact that the character of the villain, the fact that he takes a nap for 7 minutes and that's where he gets his haircut, that's inspired by Wes Anderson. They're trying to be quirky. I appreciate the effort. If even the execution isn't there, I appreciate the effort, so I can see them trying to do that. But you also have to kind of make a decision on what kind of movie you are making, because they try to pull in elements like that, and then they bring in some old Hollywood aspects. Then they try to bring in some new progressive, like filming aspects. Like they tried one thing in the very beginning where they actually, it wasn't a stationary camera, and they actually, there was a moving camera. And I don't know if you guys caught it, but it's like when Farhan comes off the plane, he's going to he's going to find that car or whatever, and the way the camera moves him, I was actually like, oh, they're gonna try some different things here cinematically, and that was the last I saw of it. Because they're just taking random things from random places and putting them all in and saying they're packaging them all up. And hoping that people would be like, oh, remember that one time they did that? That was so cool. And then remember when they did this? That was so cool. And remember when he said this?
Well,
that was
that's exactly
so cool.
why my narrative score is as low as it is, which is same as yours, right, Farhan? 55, is because the direction is all over the place. There is no direction.
There's no direction. So what's one thing? Bollywood can't make up its mind on a per individually movie basis on what it wants to do. Second, it can't make up its mind culturally on what message they are spreading, because on the one hand, and this is everything, this is not just this movie, but like on the one hand, like when their villains talk in English, they talk with such an exaggerated over the top accent. Do you guys know what I mean?
Yeah, but okay, this is just they have to try to cast a wide net to maximize audiences for the entire country.
No, I know, I get that, right? I get that.
So like, how can you fault them for trying to try to cast as wide of a net, and they write the script in a certain way where as many people in a freaking country that has more languages than Europe that they can understand most of the movie.
No, I get that. No, I get that, and that's not the point I'm making. Here's what I'm saying. When there's a difference from when the villains, and when I'm talking about the villain in this movie, I'm talking about the dude who Kareena Kapoor was supposed to marry, whatever that dude's name is,
Suhas, yeah.
Suhas, right?
He's kind of the third of the Virus and Chatur, the silencer, and Suhas. Those like the three kind of archetypes of I don't know, evil, the villains, and whatever. The villainous aspects of this movie. So he's the third of them.
So that guy specifically, right? And not every movie has this, but a lot of Bollywood movies do. And it's not just Bollywood, by the way. This is also the case in Ip Man. And it's in the case with a lot of like kung fu movies. When the villain specifically talks in English, their accent is so over the top. It is so over the top. And it's there for a reason. I don't believe that is the way the dude actually talks in English. I think that I have heard people who are native to India and Pakistan talk in English, and it's not that bad. Their accent is not that bad. What they do here is they're being extra with it. They're being like gaudy, they're trying to be gaudy with like the Western modernity thing, right?
Definitely.
So they're doing that to try to villainize these Western ideals that these guys are obsessed with, right? Meanwhile, Bollywood is trying to borrow film techniques from the Western world from 2 decades prior, and it's putting in songs and culture of new Western culture. And it's on the one hand, it's saying, oh, Western culture is terrible. And on the other hand, it's trying to be the Western culture. Like the one shining part in this movie, I'm not going to say the one shining part. One part that I liked that they tried to do something different was the shot where they showed, they had that song All Is Well, and then they showed the drone going up to Joy Lobo's window. Right. And there's a shot where they show Joy Lobo's feet hanging, and in the background, it said, "I quit" on the wall. That was such a powerful scene. That was a very powerful shot. Mm-hmm. You know how long that shot was on there for? By the way, like 2.5, 3 seconds.
Yeah, but also
the best shot of the entire movie.
But that shot
was
also,
like 3 seconds.
Like timing wise, was kind of like just in our face. Like it's after that All Is Well song,
100%
right?
It was.
Like it just happens. Like I'm like, what the hell? Like kind of.
100% it was. Yeah, I'm gonna make my point, and I'll get back to that in a second.
Okay.
Right after that, there's terrible acting that ensues at the funeral. So we all know about that. And I don't know if you guys can hear in the background of that funeral, there was a song. Give me some sunshine, give me some rain, give me another chance.
Yeah.
I want to grow up again. Like, in a horrible accent. That's American. They could have done that in Hindi. They could have done that in Hindi and would have
What-
driven. It
what-
would have been so much more in place. Why did they
Why-
do that?
Why does that offend you so much that they would criticize certain things about like Western culture while, I don't know, not
Embracing
shunning
other parts.
clear, positive things or adopting from positive aspects?
Because
Like,
they can't. Because they're not. They're not. It's making a statement on. As like when they're doing things like that, they're making a statement on behalf of the Indian people, in my opinion, on the Western culture. So it's like, are you colonized or are you not colonized? Like, you're trying to be colonized sometimes, and then you try to fight it. It's like, are you? I think there's a huge identity complex in Bollywood, where they try to retain their culture. If you're gonna retain your culture, and don't trash
But there isn't
the other
just
stuff. If
one
you're gonna
culture for
try to
India,
be
man.
the other stuff. I wish that they would have made that part in Hindi or other stuff, other examples like that in Hindi.
Oh, stop! I mean,
know what I mean?
you're pretending though that they are villainizing Western culture specifically. This movie is about the evil that exists within Indian culture. Like, that is
No,
the
I know, and that's
takeaway
I'm not
message.
saying
So for them
yeah.
for them to embody Western excess in a couple of people, I don't think that's over the top, and I don't think that is outshining the fact that they're saying that, look, we internally are obsessed with following orders, conforming to society, and reaching an artificial level of excellence that isn't actual excellence, right? And that's what Rancho is after this whole movie, right? So I think it's totally fair to point out that, look, there's other influences that are that outside of our country also that have the same issues, and where it's no secret that the U.S. and the Western culture in general is looked at as kind of a gold standard a lot of times, and there is fault to that. I don't think that's absurd for them to point that out. And Suhas is such a side character, man. He's like,
No,
he's
I know.
in and out of the movie.
I'm just making a small point. I'm not saying at all that is the overshadowing theme. That is a very, very small part of this movie.
I think you can take that. I think you can take issue with that in a lot of Bollywood movies, though.
Right, that's
Certainly.
what I'm saying. I'm not talking about this movie specifically. I'm not.
Okay.
And that's
Yeah.
that's
Okay,
not at all
so
what
good,
I'm saying.
Good to clarify that. I think you're right. That is present in a lot of
It's
movies.
in. You know when I noticed it? One of the first times that I noticed it was in Ip Man. When they have that's a different. I know that's a completely different kind of movie. It's a kung fu movie, but it's the accent specifically. The accent is so over the top to villainize the Western culture. I like how you said that. And it's also in, like, there was this Punjabi movie that my wife and I watched as it's a long story, but it was called The Flying Jat. It's a superhero movie, a Punjabi superhero movie, and the villain in that movie, I'm like, dude, it doesn't even seem like English is even his latest native language, even though he's British. Like, it's so over the top, the English. And so I don't know what that is, but that's just a random little small thought that I had. I'm not saying that that's overshadowing at all.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think it's illegitimate either, because, well, two things. First of all, obviously, let's be honest. I don't think it's totally improper for them to have some, not only in this specific subculture, but like you said, in Ip Man and other Eastern film cultures, that's not like that's not a unique element. It's there a lot, and I don't think it's maybe necessarily so unwarranted, first off, but that's a different discussion. Like, there is a tendency with Bollywood specifically to promote the let's just say the nationalistic agenda here, right? That's not something new at all, and this has come to light more recently a lot because of the number of Bollywood actors that were standing up and kind of defending the decisions recently of the Indian government that were to the chagrin of a lot of the South Asian population that isn't living in India, right? So people all over the world, and I can speak specifically from people in the U.S., but they weren't happy with the way that Bollywood was kind of falling into step with the government's agenda. But that is it's always been intertwined that way. So it's not surprising that they also tend to villainize the Western influences that exist in their society. They do that. And so I mean, I think this movie actually goes quite light on it, but you're right, it is a problem kind of in the industry overall. It's become kind of like a trope, let's say.
Yeah,
right?
That is a good end to that segment.
Right.
I'm not making a personal statement to you, Yusuf. I just want to clarify that. I love you, man.
No, I'm liking this. I am the love is mutual. Don't you worry. But I mean, like, let's talk about something that I think is a bit redeeming in this movie, which is the themes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but I think kind of the broadest theme that you get here is that society tends to run as a machine. Everyone tries to follow the model of a machine, right? So I mean, I think they did a really good job of weaving that into each and every sub story in this movie. There's like kind of the educational system and following specific career paths. There's also kind of the general hierarchy of we see it embodied in the school atmosphere and the way that everyone kind of has to fall in line with the professors, and kind of the seniors dominate over the freshmen, and the impact of questioning that hierarchy. And then there's also the surprise, the marriage aspect to this, right? And the way that you're expected to conform to certain standards there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised you even brought up the marriage aspect. Oh, you're talking about for her character, not for Funsuk.
Right.
Is that what you're
I'm
talking about? Yeah.
about,
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to know what you think in terms of Rancho as well. But sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm thinking particularly for Karina, but
Yeah. No, I kind of sorry. I was because that's what I was thinking about, and marriage wasn't really on the dude's mind. Yeah. Here's what I do think about the themes of this movie, and I rated this higher than I thought I was going to. Because going into just knowing that we were doing a Bollywood movie, I was like, this is just gonna suck. But I mean, the theme is the only shining part for me for this movie, because they try to tackle something that is so, and this is not just in India, this is not just in Pakistan. Where in America, we deal with the same stuff. People in Canada, people in England, there's people in Australia who are of Indian descent, of Southeast Asian descent, or just Asians in general struggle. They struggle so hard with children racing towards accomplishments, and just racing towards recognition, racing towards honor in the community, and honor that is only really only measured by income. And so they do a really good job of fighting against that. Granted, it's a bunch of actors and movie directors whose parents probably said the same stuff to them. And so it's kind of, I mean, you can probably see this as autobiographical, because a lot of these people probably went through the same stuff. Like, how much flack must have Amar Khan have gotten when he was a young dude starting to act, and his parents are like, why don't you pursue your engineering degree?
right,
I got to
yeah.
think that this happened to so many people. You know what I mean? And not just and again, not just in Bollywood. It happened to me. I'm a dentist. That's outside of the norm for us. You know what I mean?
Slightly, yeah.
So I mean, it's one of a couple things. You're either a doctor, or you're an engineer, or you're a lawyer. Anything outside of that, it's kind of like, okay, I mean, this is a weird direction you're taking. Are you sure this is gonna work? Why don't you just try this other stuff? I don't think you're trying hard enough. I don't think you're giving this enough. You're not giving it enough of an effort. Why don't you try? Why don't you go see your uncle who does this? Why don't you look at his house? Look at his family. He's doing a great job, isn't he? That's what we're all about. And they do a really good job of just really rebelling against that. We need to really, really change that as a people.
What you hear a lot is like, you went through a great progression there of how they try to convince you, and kind of at the end of that line of thinking is like, okay, the choice is obvious. Just put your head down and just do it. And the view is
Right.
just do it, right? Just be a machine, right? Just do what you need to do. And as if like there's not any difficulties or anything that should be holding you back from just following the path. As if it's not really difficult, you just need to make the choice, right? And that's kind of the attitude generally. It's funny to me, and I think this is purposeful again, but they chose to do this with an engineering school, whereas I think it's almost like they downplayed how difficult medical school is, which was the other option that they presented here, right? Because they focus so much on on how prestigious engineering is. And I think it was to kind of match the theme there with the way that they talk about their inventions. And, they really do use the word machine like a million times, right? Because I'm more familiar with this, seeing it with, kind of the medical society, the field as a whole, and how revered it is, and how much people in the South Asian communities and all sorts of communities really, but get pushed towards that route. So I think they made a purposeful choice there, but it was interesting to see how they demonstrated that, and how difficult it can be to fight back against that. Rancho is the only character who really even questions it, in the slightest, right? He's the only one who even sees that there's a possibility to question it, whereas the others are so stuck doing what they're told to be doing that they're not really even doing that. Because Rancho's the only one who really gets a proper engineering education at the end of it, right? And it's because he floated from classroom to classroom, not really worrying about what his exam scores were going to be, right? He gets kicked out of classes, and he they play up that that trick that he learned early on, right? You don't need to be enrolled in the school. All you need is a uniform, right?
Yeah.
As long as you look like you're fitting in, nobody bothers you, and you can do what you really want to do.
And one thing I kind of like in terms of the execution of the themes is how, you have Farhan, who has this photography passion, but then you have Rancho, who also is able to think a certain way because he comes from a very wealthy background. I mean, he doesn't, like we find out later, but to everyone else, he's coming from this super rich family, so he's able to think the way he thinks. Whereas Farhan and Raju, they can't think like that. They have other pressures on them, and they actually kind of dive into that a little bit, which is pretty impressive.
I think it was an interesting choice to make him the one who is, how do I say this? The guy, to make the character who is speaking out against the system, to make him the one who excels in that system. I think it was an interesting choice to make. And it's actually, I'm kind of impressed by that. Like he didn't make it because he was bad at it. You'll find nowadays, the people who are rebelling against that stuff are people who, this is an overstatement. I'm just going to let you know. But usually the people who are rebelling against that stuff are people who are not that motivated to pursue that line anyways. Right? You will find people who wanted to be musicians, who wanted to study music. They're the ones who are rebelling against this system. Not the guy who engineering runs through his veins, literally. Like he's a natural at it, right? And he's the one who's rebelling against the system. I thought that was an interesting choice.
Well, it's because we get his background, right? He's actually very poor. He's
right.
a servant, really. He has that in him, and he sees an opportunity to pursue it because he's doing it for someone else, really. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty good element in terms of the whole story and how it worked.
They're making a broader point there, right? Just that if you are stuck trying to, fit into the artificial metrics of the system, then you're not really accomplishing what the system pretends to accomplish, right? And so he's the only one who really learns anything because he is not obsessed with memorizing the definitions that are in the textbook, right? He doesn't care about any of that. He cares about what actually is being imparted by the meaning behind those words. So we get that scene in the classroom where he's asked to give the definition, and he says, shouldn't it be important that you actually understand what those words are rather than just the words? And the professor just doesn't seem to get that, and he gets in trouble for questioning the authority of the professor who already has a degree and all of that, right? So and I think one really good symbol of this whole thing was the astronaut's pen that Virus has, right? And I mean, I think you know that this pen's gonna come back when it gets introduced, because he says that I've been holding on to this for X number of years, and I was told to pass this down when I find the student that that is as passionate and as
deserving of it.
As deserving of the astronaut's pen as possible. And I think, that is a good symbol, because first of all, the astronaut's pen is actually kind of this symbol of excellence. I don't know if you guys watch a lot of Seinfeld, but there's an episode with the astronaut's pen in Seinfeld as well, where everyone's kind of obsessed with it, and it's kind of it's some symbol of wealth almost, like that Jerry has it and he gets it from somebody and all of that, and there's all this complex politics there. So it is a genuine symbol of excellence, but also it gets questioned, and I think early on Rancho says, why do they need a pen in space normal pens weren't working, why didn't they just use a pencil? Like, that would have saved millions of dollars. And everyone else is like, what the hell? Like, the pen is so, it's so intricate, and it's a real achievement, right? And he was like, yeah, but it's an achievement for achievement's sake. And again, that is a direct that's a direct indictment of the school system, standardized testing as a whole, I guess. So I mean, you're right to say that. I think we deal with these problems in the Western world as well, maybe not as pronounced, but I think they make a really good point, and they use pretty good symbolism to get there too. So I mean, I liked how prevalent it was in different ways. We're only really focusing on the educational aspects here, but I think they really did do a good job of showing parallels to other people in the movie and how they're dealing with society as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
What was your guys' favorite scenes?
Favorite scene.
For a movie that you're rating very poorly.
Oh, the like when so this is my favorite scene, right? So like at the end, that one. No, I'm playing. Honestly, I'll say my favorite shot of the movie was when you see his feet hanging, and in the background it says "I quit." It's so far as like the favorite scene, I'd be hard pressed to say.
I'm struggling to think of one right now. I'm thinking.
So I'm struggling to think of one.
It's also because it's a very long movie, so like you have to like replay a lot right now to think of what would have been your favorite.
Well, I'll give you what mine are. I think that there's a couple really fun ones. And one is fairly early on when Chatur is asked to give that speech, and he decides to give it all in Hindi.
Oh, that was good. That was funny.
I think that was a really fun scene. One, because it has real meaning, because again he's trying to memorize the speech, and he even tells the librarian, I don't care what it means, I'm just going to memorize it. And that's actually what ends up screwing him over in the end. I missed an opportunity there. He does himself some balatkar. Does that make sense?
Oh.
He messes himself up because he tries to memorize it, and he doesn't realize that Rancho has replaced the word like service and serving throughout the entire speech with screwing and screws and all the different all the different variations of that word. So he ends up saying that our esteemed headmaster has screwed every single student here, and he continues to screw every single student that comes through these doors, and he's constantly screwing society and all of that stuff. And it's funny because the minister of education, or whoever that guy was who was sitting next to him, is enjoying it fully until the speech turns to him and says, it's supposed to be thank you for all your monetary contributions, but he ends up saying thank you for your bosom. So I thought that was really fun because it was hilarious, but it also really embodied part of the central tenet of this movie.
So you know what's funny? One thing I kept thinking about during that scene when they were playing it, after every line he was saying, right, that the crowd would laugh, and it was like a repeated laugh track. I'm like, come on, man, like
that's hilarious.
That's all I kept thinking about. Like, why is the same laugh track playing after every line he speaks?
I don't mean to block out on your parade, but why does he not get the hint after everyone starts laughing and cracking up very obviously?
He thinks they're laughing at his jokers. I don't know.
It's not a joke. He's trying to make a good statement that this guy has done all this contribution,
but like he's like into it, right? He's
like, I almost viewed it as he's into it, and like it's almost like they're all going like they're laughing, but they're like like they're like really enjoying it, and like he doesn't really get it. He's also the foreigner out of everyone, so I don't know. And also it's a Bollywood movie, so maybe they just didn't think through that level of detail. I'm not gonna say they did.
The only time that I had like a legitimate laughing moment was when Rancho is talking to Pia about her dad. He's like, oh, your dad always says life is a race. If you don't go fast enough, you become a broken under. That was the only time I laughed.
Yeah.
Like, I audibly laughed. Otherwise, it was just maybe a smile here or there.
Oh, you know what? I audibly laughed once. And that was when they're taking the test, and they finish the test, and he's like, what are your names? And then, or he somehow figures out the dude doesn't know his name, so then he like shuffles all the papers. He's like, it doesn't know our names, and then they leave. And I laughed at that part.
That was a fun scene.
Okay, so that was so there you go. We found it. That was my favorite scene.
I also really enjoyed the kind of the climax of this movie. Well, not quite. Well, one of them, I guess, of the flashback, let's say. The engineering birth sequence, like that was like, you knew it was going to be over the top, but like I thought that was hilarious. Like, it just kind of brings together all the elements of the movie. His, Rancho's ability to actually think as an engineer is what saves them there. But also the fact that he put together that virus inverter earlier in the movie that comes back, and the whole all is well thing, right? We can't ignore that. It's so stupid and over the top that the baby is not breathing, but then it reacts to them all shouting all is well, right? But like, you knew that kind of thing was kind of coming at some level. So I thought it was fun. It was over the top. And then that's where you kind of get the return of the astronaut pen as well, because that's what finally convinces Virus that, he's thinking about things in the wrong way.
That's so funny, the all is well thing, because Faraz, you just had a baby. What do babies hear in the belly?
I mean,
no matter what's happening outside, that's what they hear. No baby is ever going to react to all is well. Those words.
You're being so particular.
I know I'm being particular. But
first of all, it's not all is well. It's all is well. They make a very clear point on that. So let's be accurate here. I mean, it's certainly over the top, but I think that was kind of a nice coalescing of everything. And, as an engineer, I also just enjoyed the fact that they, as a dentist, don't you like dream that like there's going to be that one time where it's like, oh my God, like the world is going to end unless somebody can pull this man's tooth out right now. Is there anyone that can save us? Don't you live for that moment? Anyway,
I'd probably refer him to the oral surgeon. But, yeah.
Faraz, don't you ever feel like can anyone balance this book right now? If they can't, we're all doomed. I mean, anyway, man. This is.
I was just gonna say, I totally agree with a lot of your points, Yusuf. Like a lot of these aspects of the movie that are fun and enjoyable. I mean, like I did have fun watching it. I enjoyed it. But it doesn't necessarily make it a critically good movie. But it doesn't mean I wouldn't recommend this for a lighthearted, fun watch where you can kind of sit back and relax.
That is a really important distinction that it's really important that we do make.
Yeah.
If you're watching this with your family, go ahead and watch it. That's not the kind of movies that I personally really I'm into, and that's not what I'm really looking for when I do watch a movie, because there's other forms of entertainment that I choose to partake in. However, if you want to watch a movie with your family that is lighthearted and that'll get a couple people probably crying very cheaply, and if you want to, and your parents will also love it, put on some subtitles, I would say, and you can totally watch this movie. It's not a great film by all intents and purposes, but it does its job, and that's all of Bollywood. All of Bollywood does its job. There's a reason why these things make so much freaking money. There's a reason why one of my friends, when I was in middle school, his mom, like when she met me for the first time, would quote Bollywood movies and be like, "Oh, what about this movie, huh? Yeah, what about this movie?" Everybody watches them. Everybody watches Bollywood movies, and no matter I'd be hard pressed to find somebody who doesn't at least even know what it is.
I remember one of the first things he asked me about was Kabhi Khush Kabhi Gham or whatever.
Yeah, dude, that's all that he would. That's all that they would ever watch or even talk about.
Funny story. So in Morocco, when I was there for studying abroad, they watched a lot of Bollywood there too, and I was getting a haircut there, and one of the guys in there was like, "Oh, put on Bollywood for him. He's from Pakistan." And they put it on, funny. And they watch it. Like they have a channel just for Bollywood in Morocco. And then a couple years ago that we went again, I went with my wife. Anytime we would walk by like stores, they're trying to get people to come in to like look at their stuff and buy stuff. They're like, "Oh, hey, Shah Rukh Khan." I'm like, "All right, dude, my hair's too long."
Outside of Hollywood, it is by far the most successful
industry.
Yeah. Like without a doubt.
You mean commercially successful, right?
Oh, commercially successful. I need to make that distinction too.
Yeah.
Commercially successful. And honestly, I don't even know. Maybe I don't even know. Maybe there is a battle there. It's very successful in what it does try to do. In what it does. It's successful in what it does.
Hey, the movie's budget was $7.5 million, which I think is quite a bit for an Indian movie from 2009.
Yeah, and this is what gets you $7.5 million in Bollywood.
Well, they had to buy that Ferrari, so
The
or
Countach.
Lamborghini. Sorry, they had to buy the Lamborghini from the '80s. So, I mean, they needed the budget for that. I mean, how
Which
could
they
how
also
could do
used in
without
It's
that?
Always Sunny in Philadelphia, by the way. Just another plug
Oh wow!
in an episode. They
Wow.
used it.
And you were just so critical of that car. I cannot believe.
No, I love the Countach and it represented a lot, but that's not something you talk about. It is so fast. I'm sorry, but it's not that fast anymore.
Okay, you don't call it a new Lamborghini and you don't call it so fast. You call it a classic.
Yes.
Okay.
And Chatur's an idiot.
And I'm
I
upset,
mean,
and he
there
is
we
a
go.
freaking idiot. But what's funny is I know people like him, man. There were people like him
Oh, yeah, for
in my
sure.
high school. There were people like him in my undergrad. There were people like him in my dental school. And there's people I know like him now. And it's so freaking, it's just sad. Their insecurity is just through the roof, man.
Yeah, I mean, those people exist, obviously, but that's what the whole point is, right? He's a character of them.
Yeah.
As for all these mini twists, which was your favorite? Because there was a lot of random twists in there.
Let's run them off real quick.
So the first one is that Rancho is not Rancho, I think. That's probably the first major
Yes.
twist.
Yes.
And then the next one I guess it's not really a twist, but like playing on the whole suspense part, like what's going to happen, like viruses kicking them out, but then letting them back in.
I mean, there are more twists. I mean, but
That the millimeter ends up being ends up being like one of the main
Centimeter?
yes, I mean,
No, millimeter.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
the joke
but
is
he-
that he grows up to become Centimeter.
Oh,
You missed that joke?
I think I
Oh,
missed
you
that
missed-
joke.
would you like to rescore the writing now that you know about that?
You know what, dude?
Oh,
I'm putting this in my top 5 of all time now.
The other twist is
Pretty good joke.
Pia leaving her wedding, like that happening at the
By the
very
way, can I touch on that really quick?
Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is 10 years after.
I know. I knew you
Yeah.
were gonna say that.
How is that chick not married? How is that dude not married? And how is Funsuk Wangdu not married? Yeah, and they all look the same, and none of them are freaking married yet.
Okay,
in
Wang Yu,
Indian
I
culture?
understand. Because Rancho, he like has no real interest in like following the typical path, so he wasn't gonna get married unless he was actually in love, right?
True,
on the other
true.
Well,
hand,
Pia was
on the other
waiting
hand,
for Rancho to come back. Come on.
well, yeah, and then Pia, same thing. She's kind of waiting for Rancho to come back.
What, the other
But,
dude
you
was
know,
just in the friend zone?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, you're right. He probably should have been married because he was just looking for a trophy wife anyway. So that should have happened a long time ago. But I mean, again, yeah, that was a bit dramatic.
So that was a
It
twist?
Yeah, I guess that's a twist. I mean, there was the more serious twists also. There was Raju jumping off the side of the building,
Yep,
and then everything that goes on with that. So there was a couple more serious ones as well. I would say the most fun one was probably discovering Rancho's true identity. So when they're in the actual Rancho's house and
Yeah.
they're holding or what he thinks is his father's ashes over the toilet and threatening him and trying to get the real story out of him. That was a lot of fun actually. And I think he's also a good example of kind of the pressures of society, right? Because his dad was so desperate to have a
Right.
successful son follow the successful father that he like drummed up this whole scheme, and really the son benefited from it as well because he got to claim to be successful without having to cope with his own inabilities or his shortcomings in terms of his engineering education. So again, like a fun way to twist together the real serious elements of this movie, but also have some fun on screen. So I enjoyed that quite a bit.
I want to mention the worst scene of the movie is.
Let's go.
No, this is where I was like, why would they do it like this? It made no sense to me. When Silencer is on the water tower and he's pissed off about the
Oh my god.
he's pissed off about the joke that they played on the speech on him, and he's like, we're gonna come back on September 6th.
5th.
Yeah, 10 years. And it was like the way, this is where like everything about the movie just falls apart in like one scene and is summed up very well. The aesthetics are like totally random. The whole narrative and direction just changes randomly. It's so out of place and it's just so badly done. I'm like, just so bad.
I can agree with you there. I mean, because one thing I was thinking about, and I was going to ask this question, I'll ask it anyways, but I was going to ask, how do you feel about the flashback storytelling here, and like, was it necessary? And I think that's a bit of a loaded question, but what do you think? And it really does pertain specifically to that scene, because that's kind of the sequence that sets us off, right?
Yeah.
That's what transitions us from
Current
day
timeline. Yeah.
into the whole thing. That the fact that it's September 5th, the fact that we're on this water tower, right? So what did you guys think? Did you think it served any purpose or no?
No, I thought it was a good way to present the story, because we're talking about people who haven't seen each other for like so long. If you did that the other way, where you went like linear from the beginning and then you just had a break, like 10 years later than this, it wouldn't have had the same effect as it did the way they did it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it was a good way to tell the story. I don't think that there's a lot of other ways that would have done it more impactfully. I say impactfully very, very lightly, but yeah, I think that was probably the best way to do it. That whole freaking scene was so stupid though, and oh man, that's all.
It was so bad, man. Like if
they probably needed a better reason to flashback than whatever Jator and his stupid wager.
No, they could have even still been that, but like, why would you shoot it like that?
They
man?
didn't
My
have
God.
to. Yeah.
Like, why would you do it like that? If you showed someone just that scene, and like, what kind of movie do you think they'd be watching? Like, and then they watch the rest of the movie and they're like, what the hell is this?
Well,
That's
you
true.
can show them pretty much any scene from this movie, and I think they would say the same thing.
No, there's a lot of the other stuff kind of fits in, but no, I agree. It is out of like all over the place in general, but that particular scene is just insanely out of place.
I took more issue with the fact that was really what everything was hinging on. But yeah, I mean, you kind of needed to see that they were
a petty bet.
that they grew and then also that they grew up, that they were successful, that they were okay, and the fact that they were so attached to him. I think you need to see that like while the story's playing out for it to have that effect, right? So I certainly like that. And then you get to kind of, that lets you follow the characters in real time as they're, meeting up with, they go and corral Pia from her wedding and all of that stuff.
In the beginning of the movie, when the first time we see Raju Rastogi, where is he?
At home?
He's not at home. His parents live in like this they live in like this like kind of like this poor area, right? These slums.
Yeah.
This dude's in like a nice house with some chick that we never see again.
That's him being successful. This is the future him.
He made it
10 years later.
Okay.
He made it out of the town.
Okay.
So like.
That makes sense.
I did notice that though. Like we get one joke out of the wife basically, where she doesn't want to break her yoga or whatever. So, but she's trying to tell him like, you forgot your pants, and then he just runs out the door. That's really the only time we ever see her. But again, she wasn't really important. And then actually, it's kind of fun to follow Raju throughout the whole. He like gets dressed throughout the movie. Like later he picks up pants. Then he steals the sherwani from
the guy.
Steals the suit first.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly. He steals the suit pants first, right? Oh no, yeah, you're right. He actually steals the entire suit to dress up as a member of the wedding, and then to pretend to be like some of the help, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was all fun, kind of an extended joke. But yeah, like generally, I think the flashback storytelling was the right, mode to go with. Probably not the most well executed or anything, so but it was good.
Is this your favorite Bollywood movie?
No way.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. I tried to pick something, but I didn't want to pick something that was totally unrepresentative of the genre as well to do as our first one. So I think this one is a little bit more poignant, but it's also generally fits the traditional mold. So it's an in-betweener.
So if you're looking for that kind of thing, and for your viewers as well, or whatever, listeners, what do we call them? Listeners?
Yeah.
I would say I would look into Barfi. BARFI exclamation point.
You have to tell them which one, 'cause I think it's a remake of an older. I mean, obviously it's a remake of an American movie, a Charlie Chaplin movie, but this is the one.
Really.
This is the one with Priyanka Chopra, right?
It's not.
That's why.
It's
that's
not.
Why
It's not a
we're bringing
remake.
this up.
It's not a remake.
Charlie Chaplin.
It's an ode. It's an ode to Charlie Chaplin, but it's not at all. It is not at all. It's nothing like any of his.
Sorry, that is what I meant.
Yeah. I think did I watch that with you?
No, we didn't watch
No,
it
so
together.
it's an ode to Charlie Chaplin movies, but I mean, you can watch this movie without ever having ever seen a Charlie Chaplin movie. It's not a remake. It's an original story and all that stuff, but it is that movie does play very differently than your typical Bollywood movie, and I would review that movie very differently. The acting is way better. You know, the writing is way better, and all that stuff is way better. So I think
Ranbir Kapoor, yeah, he's pretty good.
Would you agree that generally the acting in Bollywood over the last 10 years has dramatically improved?
Oh yeah.
Ooh, dramatically improved?
No,
I think
100%.
dramatic.
It's still the same
100%.
guys, bro. It's still
No,
Amir
no,
Khan,
no.
Shah Rukh Khan, Salman Khan.
Yeah, but even still, those actors are they're learning more.
No, I mean, I shouldn't even say, 'cause I actually think all of them are pretty decent, but I guess I haven't really seen
What did I watch with Shah Rukh Khan recently? I'm thinking about Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, okay? And the movies of that time era when it
That's
was literally
mid-90s.
just horrible. You're so right in saying that your clout as an actor in Bollywood is judged by how you cry, and that's the only reason that Shah Rukh Khan has a job. Because he's always like, Dekho, Anjali, Dekho. And that's like how he does it every single freaking movie.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
he's
he
so
doesn't
bad.
have to even adjust the name because they're always named Anjali.
They're always named Anjali. Like, get more names, guys. But also, I think I saw him in something recently, and it was completely different. Completely different.
I'm
And so
interested in what that was.
I forget, man, and it must have not really been that memorable if I can't remember what it was. But
As
I
your
just
wife.
do know that the acting has definitely increased on the average for sure. But there was an appeal that they were going for. I mean, those play a lot more like a play. It's like you're watching a drama or a play, like a soap opera, and those are the same exact. Those are the same feelings that they're going for, like in a soap opera. Name a soap opera, dude. A soap opera.
Days
You
of
guys
Our
know
Lives.
soap
Days,
operas.
yeah,
huh?
Days of Our
Days
Lives.
of Our
I was gonna
Lives.
say.
This is Indian Days of Our Lives. That's every single Bollywood movie in terms of the acting for the female characters especially. You know, it's so dramatic. It's so over the top. But again, that's what these people are used to. The only one who has issue with it is people like me. So it's not stopping them from selling anything.
In the most emotional moments, like they always, they blare the music up and like,
Oh,
it's
yeah, dude.
they signal to you that hey, this is a big emotional moment. And it's-
Nothing is subtle.
Oh
right,
yeah, nothing.
And
100%.
I thought it was funny because even in this movie, there's like this like I don't even know how to quantify. Well, I can try to sing it for you, but every time there's an emotional moment, there's that music that like right.
yeah,
They use
yeah.
it in this movie too, but like it's
You
always
were
there in, like,
working
the
on that
emotional
today, by the way. You were like, I'm gonna bring this up, and I gotta practice my vocal cords for this.
That was my
That
first
happened.
time doing it, but
impressive, man.
I
It's
hope it hit.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it is definitely like soap opera esque, and I think they've gotten better about it though. Because I disagree that we have the same actors. Because I really, even if we just say just looking at like Ranveer Singh and Ranbir Kapoor, I feel like they're both a lot better than kind of the old guard. And Salman Khan's kind of out of it altogether now, right? Like Shah Rukh Khan's hanging on, but he has had to adapt a bit. And Amir Khan, I think, has always been more open to more, more nuanced roles. So he's kind of fine, and he's found a place and has had a place in Bollywood.
Yeah.
Again, R.I.P. to Irfan Khan, man. Probably the best of them all and who had the
Yes,
most
sir.
range.
Yeah, and he made the transition to Hollywood for that reason, certainly.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think it's a good spot. Let's leave
Sounds
it at
good.
this.
I'm excited to do another Bollywood movie sometime, Farhan. We'll pick something more recent.
Definitely the
hopefully, but-
last of them, dude.
Oh, it's coming. Part 2.
Thanks for listening to this production of The Twice Over. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing and sharing it with a friend. Want to see what your tally is? Check out thetwiceover.com. All the movies we've done are listed there, as well as what we're watching for the current week. Follow us at The Twice Over on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where you can leave us any suggestions, feedback, or comments. And if you're about it, you can also support us on Patreon. The music you hear on this podcast is from Amerigo Gazaway. You can find his work on Bandcamp and Spotify.